And a good morning. Well, maybe not. Birds fans, this is Birds
Still a good
365.
morning, Jody. It's a
You
good morning.
sure?
Sure,
If
why
we're
not?
breathing it, does that make it a
Yeah,
good morning, Johnny
exactly.
Mac?
Exactly. It's the holiday season. Come on. It's not
Okay.
the end of the world. It's a bad
Uh,
football game.
it was a bad football game. And the reason why I'm even debating on whether it was a good morning or not, I looked down at my sheet and saw this is episode number 165 of Birds
Yeah,
365. You and I have been
165.
doing a solid for several months now. And we went through the prep to the draft and then the lead up to camp. And you're running down to the Novacare complex and watching the guys run around in shorts on a day in, day out
Yeah.
basis into the preseason, into the start of the regular season with a win, but then a drop off and a couple of butt kickings. And the Eagles actually getting an identity and winning a bunch of games. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Johnny Mac, of the previous 164 Birds 365 shows that we've done, I think this is the most disappointing one. I
Wow.
think this is the toughest day to do. And they got their tail kicked some games early in this season. But because, at least, and I'm talking about just for myself here, I started to buy the hype. I started to buy into that they can do that. They can run the football down other teams' throats and be able to compete and make a playoff run. You know, I gave you all the scenarios. I put in friggin' 45 minutes of matching records between the Eagles and the Cowboys last week to come up with a scenario whereby that last game of the season could be for the NFC East. It all goes for naught when you lose to the New York Giants.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit different. I tried to steer clear of the Cowboys and NFC East talk because they're just a more talented team. And ultimately, that's my thought process. Look, and I think maybe it's a little bit ironic that you're at MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands, not, the complex is used to be the home of Bill Parcells all those years. And he's the one famous for saying you are what your record says you are. And my point with that is you're 5-6 team, you're a 5-6 team. Don't act like you're an 8-win team. Don't act like you're a 9-win team. Inconsistency is part of it. That's the reason. That's what differentiates good teams from bad teams. And you can't go into a game feeling you're superior over anybody in the NFL, or you're going to get punched in the face. I got a lot of that. I got that feeling from the Eagles that the Giants are in disarray. We talked about it all week, firing the offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett. Then the story comes out, which isn't really a story. Everybody knows it's probably the end of Dave Gettleman with the Giants as the GM on the morning of the game. They have a ton of injuries. All their playmakers are basically either banged up or not playing. And the Eagles, I thought, went into this game with two goals. Let's win the game, obviously, number one. I'm not saying that's number one, but number two, let's evolve this offense. Let's try some different things. Let's get this thing going. Let's start to improve for bigger tests down the line. No, you just got to go out and win the football game the best way you can. And they were unable to do that. And they still had opportunities. I mean, they should have won it, amazingly, if Jalen Reagor can hang on to the football on two different occasions. And who knows? I mean, the second one, he's probably coming down at the 1 yard line. So you got to rush up. But you're going to have one or two opportunities to win the game if you get up and spike the ball. I just thought they were feeling themselves. And I always say in the NFL, you've heard me say this, Jody, you can talk yourself into things. The Giants, as bad as they are, they have a lot of good players. And you saw Dexter Lawrence create the fumble. Leonard Williams is a really good player. James Bradbury's a really good player. They had a really good plan. From moment one, they came out with two defensive linemen and four linebackers, and they tried to confuse Jalen Hurts. And guess what? They confused Jalen Hurts. So you got to give Patrick Graham a lot of credit. And oh, by the way, other teams are going to be looking at that film and looking at how Patrick Graham played defense against Jalen Hurts, and he's going to see it again. And they're going to make him figure it out. That's what this league is. And I've been saying it. They went about it different. I mentioned that Miami game against Baltimore. I mentioned the Antoine Winfield game, as I call it, Antoine Winfield Sr. Once somebody comes up with a way to stop a mobile quarterback, or at least limit a mobile quarterback, and in this case, Julian Love was pretty honest after the game. One of the Giants' defensive backs flat out said, guess what? We wanted him to throw the football. That's the most concerning part for me. Not losing. You know, you're still in it. San Francisco beat Minnesota, as I expected. Minnesota's the last team in the playoff hunt. They would be the 7th seed today. They're a half game ahead of the Eagles. Their whole defensive line is out. Gone. Poof. It's gone. They're done. They could easily still make the playoffs. I'm more concerned about the bigger picture, to be honest.
The bigger picture being, yeah, these are the Eagles. And if you're right, and you had a sense of it because you were in the stadium, you don't really get a chance to talk to the players prior to the game. You get a feeling of them after the game. Hey, it's tough for me to be harsh today. I'm going to do it because that's my job. But it's tough to be harsh because I was smelling the Eagles too. Absolutely last week. And I picked them. You picked them. We both picked them to win by more than a touchdown yesterday. So we bought the hype ourselves a little bit. If that was the case and they came in a little too high on themselves coming into the game, each and every individual player has to look themselves in the mirror. How much of this is on the coaching staff? That they couldn't sense that before the game started. They couldn't cut that off at the pass. They couldn't keep that from playing itself out on the field over 60 minutes. How much do we look at Nick Sirianni and his staff and go, wait a minute, how did you guys not let this happen? If we can correctly say, yeah, the Eagles came in too high on themselves before the game.
Well, I don't know if you can. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, it's just human nature. I call them human nature games. I did say, look, the only way they're going to lose this game is if they come in with their C game. If they come in with their A game, they're going to win. But if you're not on your P's and Q's in the NFL, somebody's going to pop up and beat you, even if they look really bad. And I think that's what happened to the Eagles, unfortunately. And that's why when I go back to the Bill Parcells quote, that's why you're 5-6. That's why there's inconsistencies. You know, that kind of stuff happens to everybody, but it doesn't happen to good teams as much, where they, you know, you're under 500 and you're acting, people are talking about running the table. And by the way, I don't think the Eagles felt that way. I don't think they're looking at, oh, we're going to run. I think that was more of, you know, media, fan driven, whatever, whichever one. I know who the fans want to blame. But, you know, either way, come on. You knew it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen against this team on this week, but I knew it was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen against Washington, or maybe even the Giants here when things settled down a little bit for that organization. But I knew they were going to have one of these games because they're a young football team. And that's what happens. It happens everywhere in this league. You see it all the time.
All right, we got to point the finger of guilt at a whole bunch of Eagles today. I'm going to do just that.
No shortage of that.
Over the course of today's 2 hours and tomorrow's 2 hours, at some point we'll start to turn our attention to another trip up the turnpike and game against the Jets, who found a way to win a game yesterday, which the Eagles didn't do. But at the top of the list are the two Jalen's, Reagor and Hurts. Let's go Reagor first. Yes, the last ball he absolutely has to catch. I'm sorry. You get extended up in the air, clear of the defender, both hands on the football. You have to come down with it. He didn't. There's a reason for that. He's not a good player. It doesn't matter where the Eagles took him. It doesn't matter whether it was a Doug Peterson pick or a Howie Roseman pick or a Jeff Lurie pick. Whoever picked him, it is irrelevant at this point. This kid can't play. And most of the blame, of course, goes to him. A part of the blame goes to Jalen Reagor because he chose Jalen Hurts because he chooses to throw the ball to him. But part of the blame also goes to Nick Sirianni because he's still got him out there. He's got him on the field. And if he's in the play and he's running a pattern and your quarterback chooses to throw him the ball and he refuses to catch it, that's on you, coach. Yeah. Why is Jalen Reagor out there as often as he is to give Jalen Hurts the chance to make a mistake and throw him the football?
Yeah, I'm with you at this point with Jalen Reagor. And look, I think you're right. And he's a great athlete who is not a good football player. He has all the requisites. We always talk about at draft time. He can run. He's got the huge vertical. Every once in a while, the athleticism will shine through, like the punt return for a touchdown. But he can't run routes. He can't catch the football consistently. He's not an effective player in an NFL offense. And, at some point, you got to raise your hands and say, all right, this guy's not producing. Now, part of the problem is you don't have anybody to replace him, but I don't care. I don't care if it's Sean Hightower. I don't care if it's Keyshawn Johnson. Forget about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Greg Ward. All right, those guys, if you think those guys are worse than Jalen Reagor, well, that tells you all you need to know about those guys. So try somebody else. Go to the practice squad. Sign somebody off somebody else's practice squad. They got to give you more production. They literally have to give you more production. And it's very difficult, we know, for GMs to do this type of thing. But this organization has been slowly lobbying behind the scenes for a long time now that was a coaching staff pick. So they've already been trying to distance themselves from Jalen Reagor, and that tells you all you need to know. I mean, you're trying to distance yourself. You might as well distance yourself. It's time to bench him, to be honest. And if you want to come up with a reason, a hamstring strain, an ankle tweak, do whatever you have to do. But get somebody on the field that can help you at least a little bit. And, they played JJ a little bit more as a blocking receiver. He had another catch, which is, something. Your guy, Greg Ward, had an opportunity at the goal line. I'm not sure. Some people said it was a drop. You probably had a better look than me. I don't know. But clearly they don't think he's effective. This wide receiver position has been an issue all year outside Devontae Smith, and they need a veteran. And that's the way they have to go about it. But that's for the off season. There's not much you can do at this stage.
Correct. Let me tell you about Greg Ward. And I'm the president of the Greg Ward fan club, but this is going to come off sounding like it's just Jody's overall bias toward Greg Ward. I'm wiping the slate clean. This is just Jody McDonald, the objective football observer. I like Mark Sklareth, the ex-Bronco, ex-ESPN guy, now Fox play caller. I think he does a pretty good job. I think he's good at it. We get different guys every single week, unlike with basketball and hockey and baseball, where you listen to the hometown guys every single week. If you turn down the sound on your TV and listen to Mike and Merrill, more power to you. If not, you're subjected to whoever that broadcast outlet chooses to have do your games on the given day. He said that the ball that Greg Ward made a play on in the end zone should have been caught. If I remember correctly, Mark Sklareth was a offensive lineman in the National Football League. I don't remember Mark Sklareth ever catching any ball that came his way. It was a short pass delivered as a bullet, which Greg Ward had to leave his feet and fully extend just to get his fingertips on, and he couldn't come down with the ball. As compared to Jalen Reagor, who went up, all he had to do was jump straight up, got both hands clean, and didn't come down with the football. One was a drop. One was a bad play. One was an unfortunate he couldn't come up with a highlight type catch. the fact that some people going, Greg Ward dropped the touchdown pass. No, he didn't. Jalen Hurts threw the ball about 6 inches off the ground, a fastball from short range, and Ward couldn't grasp it with his overly extended fingers. That's completely unfair. And by the way, when was the last time Greg Ward was targeted? Week 4? Week 6? Somewhere thereabouts? He hadn't even had the ball thrown his way in a month and a half. Jalen Reagor had 6 opportunities to make a play prior to that play at the end zone. So please don't compare those two things. Don't say, well, Reagor dropped the touchdown pass and Ward dropped the touchdown pass. No, they didn't. They're not even close to being the same thing. Yeah, I still am rooting for Greg Ward. I think he deserves the reps that Jalen Reagor has been getting next week. I'll take my chances with him over Jalen Reagor every day of the week and twice on Sunday. If it goes to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I'll surely take him over Reagor, but I wouldn't take him over Ward. The coach has got to do something. He cannot put Reagor out there as many snaps next week as he did these past however.
Yeah, I'm probably prepared to go the John Hightower route or even Deion Kane or Keyshawn Johnson, the receivers on the practice squad that we don't know much about. You know where the MetLife press box is, so basically, sure. Greg Ward's back was to me, so we couldn't see that play all that much at all. I do know Jalen Hurts was incredibly inaccurate in the first half as a whole, pretty much the entire game, but he played pretty well on the final drive. That was about it. So yeah, I mean, he doesn't throw the most catchable ball at times, no question about it. We've seen drops from Devontae Smith. I mean, we've seen drops from everybody because this isn't Aaron Rodgers throwing the football. You know, I think on the final play, which, you know, a lot of people are saying Devontae Smith was open, which he was for a very short window, and it was sort of coming off a crossing route. They had double crossing routes underneath, and it was really flat to the quarterback. So I mean, it would have had to have been a strike for him to hit Devontae Smith on that particular play, and he's just not capable of making that throw. So I kind of chuckle when people say Devontae's open. Devontae, he's open for some quarterbacks, but he's not open for all quarterbacks. And I thought Jalen Hurts did a tremendous job of extending the play and waiting for somebody to clear. And he finds his receiver in the middle of the field at essentially the goal line. As I said, probably would have been stopped at the 1 yard line. He gets both hands on the football and he doesn't make the catch. First round pick, 6th round pick, undrafted free agent, guy off the street. You're an NFL player. You got to make that catch. And if you don't make that catch, you got to take a seat on the bench.
John, I'm going to ask you if you take the game, which I'm sure you did, and you said you didn't have the best angle to see the Ward play. Please go back and watch it again.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna watch the game.
Could he have caught the ball? Yes, it would have been, in my account, a fairly amazing catch. It was a bad pass. He didn't save his quarterback's butt as compared to some of the Reagor drops. And this is going to be one of those games where you're going to wish you had the all 22, because in addition to the ball going Jalen Reagor's way, 7 times. Jalen Hurts chose to throw the ball to Jalen Reagor 7 times. And again, when you're watching it on TV, like 99.9% of our audience do, you only get to see what Fox chooses to show you. So you can't tell where other players were on the field on those given plays when the ball goes Reagor's way. But the fact that Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert only got the ball thrown to them 7 times for the entire game to equate to the same number that Jalen Reagor got targeted boggles my mind. Now, here's where I'll point the finger of guilt, that at least for myself, if you want to jump in and say so, feel free. We've been over the last several weeks talking about someone else needs to catch the football for the Eagles other than Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, because if they're not throwing it to Smith and Goddard, who the hell are they throwing it to? we kept harping on there needs to be a third and or a fourth and or a fifth option. You just can't do that. And I told you before the game, one of the things I liked about Giants, I don't like much about the Giants at all, was their secondary. I think their secondary is actually pretty good, and I thought they could cover, and I thought they might make it difficult on the Eagles in the passing game. I don't know if they did or didn't. Without the all-22, you don't know if they didn't get open. Or did Devontae Smith and Goddard have bad games? Did they not get open? Did they not get separation? Did they not run good patterns? I don't know that. Maybe someone will ask the coach about that because they'll have watched the game tape by the time you guys get a chance to talk to them today. Did Jalen Hurts just make a decision ahead of time? I got to spread the ball around, and that meant throwing it unsuccessfully to Jalen Reagor. How the hell do Smith and Goddard combine for three catches?
I can tell you, right away. And this is where I brought up his name earlier in the show. Good game plan from Patrick Graham. Okay. He was taking away Dallas Goedert. They were bracketing Dallas Goedert. So number one, they really wanted to take the tight end out of the football game, and they had a mentality that, okay, this is going to be his default setting, Jalen Hurts' default setting on third down. They took Dallas Goedert away. And as good as Dallas Goedert is, as good as he has been, this is not Devontae Adams. This is not, Stephon Diggs. This is not even Devontae Smith, guys who can run routes and guys who can get open no matter what. Tight ends, you got to, if they're your top threat, you probably got an issue. So then you start talking about Devontae Smith. Devontae was pretty frustrated, and especially on the last play, he thought he was open again. I just tweeted the last play, so if everybody wants to go look at it on my Twitter account, JF McMullen, at JF McMullen, you can look at it. Devontae is open for a very, very short period of time, and the safety is over the top. And I mean, you got to get the football out on time. It's got to be delivered over the corner who's underneath. It's got to be a really nice throw in a tight window. Pretty easy for certain quarterbacks, and we all know who those quarterbacks are. I don't know if it was easy for Jalen Hurts yesterday. He was not accurate. So I think people are overblown. I think, as I said, Jalen Hurts did a good job extending that play, did a good job. And at some point it's desperation. Oh, that guy's open. It's 4th and 10. The clock's the waning seconds. I got to take my shot. Your receiver lets you down. They don't have they don't have a third option. We've been talking about this for weeks. It was gonna bite them. And Quez Watkins is not that third option. Is he better than Jalen Reagor? Yeah. Is he a good third option on an NFL team? Not even close. Not even close. So it's kind of, do you want to make excuses for Jalen Hurts? Do you want to make excuses for Jalen Reagor? It's probably easier to make excuses for Hurts. This team is not equipped to come from behind for a lot of the reasons we're discussing. And when we talk about, can you run? Guess what? The Eagles ran for 200 yards.
What up, 200 again?
Again. But what have I been saying, Jody? When you play football that way, the margin of error is very, very small. You saw the margin of error. Boston Scott rolling, fumble. Jalen Hurts, bad decision at the goal line at the end of the half. Take the field goal. Take Jake Elliott field goals, and you're up 6-3 instead of down 3-0. Margin of error, very small. Nate Herbig's got to play. Jason Kelsey gets hurt. Jack Driscoll gets hurt. 2 holding calls. Oh, we're running the football. Here it comes back. Really, really small margin of error. You saw it.
That is a very fair critique as to what happened yesterday. I don't want to get too far afield because we have to stay in the moment. As painful as the moment may be with yesterday's loss, you just gave a pretty good rundown of where the Eagles sit wide receiver wise. They got Devontae Smith, who may or may not have been open on that final play. We know he was only targeted 3 times yesterday for 22 yards on the 2 catches he had. Just not good enough, but we have faith that he is a star wide receiver in the making, if not already there. And then the Mojave Desert, nothing after Devonta Smith. Will the Eagles, with one of those 3 first-round draft picks this year, which, oh, by the way, didn't help that the Dolphins found a way to win yesterday. The Eagles at least kept their pick viable with a loss, but the Colts also lost, and Carson Wentz played the entire game. And, oh, by the way, 2 big turnovers in the second half. That's the Carson we know and love here in Philadelphia. Does Howie Roseman at all have the nerve enough to go back and grab another wide receiver in the first round for the 3rd consecutive year?
I do not think he does. I do not think this. I think this team is sick and tired of young receivers, and they are going to find somebody who already knows how to play, and they're going to put them in there, and they're going to go to the free agency route. They're going to have the ability to do it. And again, you don't need a superstar. You need an Alshon Jeffrey type pre-Liz Frank injury when he was playing through the shoulder injury and going to the Super Bowl. That's the type of player you want to get on the open market who knows how to play. And I know people don't want to hear that name, but the revisionist history forgets he was very successful early. That's the type of player they have to go after. They have to go after a proven commodity who knows how to play. No more of this developmental nonsense at that position.
I hear you, but that perfect guy might be very difficult to get. So there are 2 ways that you address the position. One is via 3, I should say, because Howie Roseman does pull an occasional trade, and that's another thing he's not bad at. But draft, trade, free agent, if you get thwarted in one of the 3 or 2 of the 3, then you must turn around and acknowledge that you've got to go down a road again. And it might be via the draft this year with a wide receiver, because nobody is going to argue after yesterday's game that the Eagles need to upgrade the wide receiver position. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are Birds 365. We'll continue to break down yesterday's game. We'll get our buddy Chris Franklin up a little bit later in the show. He, too, suffered through yesterday's mess at the Met. No miracle at the Meadowlands, just a flat-out mess at the Meadowlands.
Almost a miracle. Semi-miracle.
Do you even get credit for that? Do the powers that be even acknowledge an almost miracle?
No,
I think that's kind of like being it's like being almost pregnant, John.
Yeah,
it's kind of a
certainly not, especially when you're playing that Giants team. I mean, that's a miracle you lost, is what that was.
Yes, not a good effort, not a good result. That's for damn sure. Yesterday at the Meadowlands or MetLife Stadium, call it what you want. Giants, Eagles going right back up there 7 days from now. What's worse than losing to the Giants, losing to the Jets? Could that be the case? We shall see. We appreciate you tuning in on an ugly. I said the most depressing Monday, the most depressing of the 165 shows we've done here on Birds 365. Shame on me. I bought the hype. McMullen, not as much as me. He can look at himself in the mirror. I can't. I bought the hype. I had the Eagles winning easy yesterday. We'll continue to break it down for you here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free. What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
All right, we are the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. My partner John McMullen with me, Jody McDonald, kind of trying to claw out of yesterday's, I'm going to say crushing. Again, if I need to apologize, I'll continue to apologize. I got a little too hyped about the Eagles winning 3 out of 4 and doing it a little bit differently than most teams do, running the ball down people's throats. Thought they were going to be able to do that against the Giant defense yesterday. And they did put up 200 yards rushing, but as John so aptly put it in the first 25 minutes of the show, if you're going to do it that way, the margin of error, the amount of care you must take of the football is daunting. And Eagles turned it over not once, not twice, not 4 times yesterday. 3 Jalen Hurts interceptions and a very untimely Boston Scott fumble, and that's why they lost to the Giants. So we're breaking it all down for you. But we're also getting sidetracked a little bit, and I'm going to let us get sidetracked again here because Jalen Reagor just flat out killed them yesterday. Very catchable
He had
ball.
one nice catch.
He did in the red zone.
Yeah.
That
Back shoulder. Yeah. It's maybe the nicest play of the game, offensive play of the game for the Eagles. It is what it is. That's a footnote. That's what you call a footnote, Jody.
How sad is that footnote that's the highlight play? But Reagor is just absolutely killing the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagle fans here on the stream and on Twitter killing Greg Ward for not catching a touchdown pass. It was a near impossible catch. It was a bad throw that he made a good play just to even get his fingers on. But I digress.
I think everyone defaults to, is Devontae Adams going to make that catch? Yeah, probably. Is some of the great receivers, the Eagles.
You want me to give you a guy who wasn't going to make that catch yesterday? Devonta Smith doesn't make that catch. Their best wide receiver doesn't make that catch.
I don't put Devontae in the category of the Devontae Adams yet. I mean, I think he might get there. I think he might get there. My only point is, the top 5 receivers, top 10 receivers, they're probably going to catch that ball. But again, you can't expect every receiver to be a top 5 or a top 10 receiver. I mean, if it's got to be a circus catch and it should be an easy catch, well, some of the blame's got to go to the quarterback as well, to throw a more catchable ball, to put it in a better position. I think that's fair, but I think it's also fair to say, Jody, that Craig Ward is not the answer. JJ Arcega-Whiteside is not the answer. And I'm at the point where I'm starting to look at the practice squad guys, not, as I said, not only here, but on other teams, and saying, well, they can probably help me some way. And again, as a third receiver, I'm not expecting Devontae Adams. I'm not expecting Stephon Diggs. I'm expecting somebody who can go out on the field and run a competent route and catch the football if it's thrown to him. That's it. It's a low bar.
Here's where I'm jumping to disagree with you. You just said a third receiver. Is that accepting Quez Watkins as your
Yeah, well, you have to, because you can't get two. It's not accepting it after the season. I think you got to upgrade everywhere. But in season, I mean, you probably can't even find a 3. You're certainly not going to find a 2.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the Eagles have the worst wide receiver 2 in football. If another team's got one worse, please give it to me. And they have the worst wide receiver 3 in football. Whoever you want to say is 2 and whoever you want to say is 3. It's pretty stinking bad. So when we talk about Jalen Hurts and his development as a passer, yeah, it's not good. But also you got to throw that into the equation. He's not throwing to star receivers either. So it makes it more difficult. He's throwing to 2 guys who won't let him down, and one guy they completely took out of the game for a game plan perspective. And again, I want to give the other team is trying. So if you're looking for the positives, Patrick Graham came up with a really, really good game plan, really effective way to say, hey, I'm going to put the game on the quarterback's plate from a passing perspective, not a running perspective. And he was able to do that, beat us throwing the football. They couldn't be, it's ironic. He would have beaten them throwing the football at the very end. It would have been an ugly win, but the receivers let him down. So it was a good game plan. Force guys who aren't good at certain things to do the things they aren't good at. That's all you can do. And then the defense played well. They were playing a bad offense that was struggling with playmakers. It didn't have, and the playmakers that were out there were banged up, like Saquon Barkley. They gave up 2.6 yards a rush. They didn't give up, but the longest pass play was 20 yards. They gave up 13 points on the road. That's pretty good.
All right. I asked you about this earlier in the show, and I know we want to stay focused on what happened yesterday, what needs to happen when they go up the Turnpike again next week to play the Jets. But they have wide receiver issues today, next week, the week after, and for years to come. And I asked you, would the Eagles consider using one of their 3 first-round draft picks on a wide receiver again? 3 years running, taking a wide receiver in the first round. Should not happen, Joe. They're just not going to do it. They'll get a veteran guy. They'll go out and improve the wide receiver position via free agency. All right, let me run some names by you, Mr. McMullen, for once this season is over and done with.
Yes to everyone.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Break the bank, Devonta Adams.
God, yes, number one. But no way would he come here. I mean, no way. Devontae Adams is smart. I mean, I think he's the best receiver in football right now, but he's also got somebody who could deliver him the football. He knows it's great to get money, but, he knows that it's going to take a dramatic dip in production to come here, even if the Eagles offered him the most money. And this is the assumption that Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. And if he isn't the quarterback, it's probably going to be a draft pick. Maybe that changes if they're able to get a veteran quarterback and then you can get a package deal done. But unless they get a quarterback who can throw the football with consistency and big numbers, no. a player like that is not going to come here.
I tend to agree with you. You dream the dream, but at some point you wake up from the dream, and that's probably not going to happen. Allen Robinson of the Bears.
Love him. I think he's the most underrated receiver in football. Boy, he's had some bad quarterbacks throw to him, and he gets open. He's a great route. That is a good name, Jody. He is exactly the type of receiver they went. The only concern with Allen Robinson, injuries. He's had a lot of them over the years, but man, he's a good route runner, and he is exactly what this team would need at the wide receiver position. It would be a little ironic because the last one they got was from Chicago as well.
Bears too, right? Yeah, with Alshon.
Yeah.
One of the issues there, and Green Bay's going to attempt to put the franchise tag on Devonta Adams. Certainly, he's worthy of a franchise tag. Allen Robinson is playing on the tag this year, which means the Bears could do it again next year. The price tag's only going to go up because if you keep throwing the tag on, it gets more expensive as you do it. And he's playing into an area now where you might not even be able to justify the kind of money that he's getting. So we got to wait and see if he hits the free agent market, but he is someone that is certainly viable. How about Chris Godwin of the Bucs? Now the Bucs kept all their free agents this past year. Everybody came back. Keep the band together for Brady to take another Super Bowl shot. This season will play itself out, and we'll see if Tampa goes back again, wins back-to-back, gets picked off along the way. They did a nice job of keeping everybody this year. Chris Godwin's going to get paid this offseason. Godwin, Robinson, both in the same stratosphere. Which one would you prefer?
I think Robinson is a better receiver overall. But, again, when we talk about the Eagles and improvement, Chris Godwin would be a significant improvement. I'd probably if I was able to get him, I'd probably just stick him in the slot and go from there. A little bit drops the football a little bit too much, but compared to what we have here, yeah, I mean, that's a significant upgrade. When my concern when high profile free agents come to Philadelphia, though, is that if they're not, like, I have no questions about Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson, none. I mean, they're just good players, just good. Guy like Godwin, he's a good player. But he's going to come in with expectations of being a great player. And he's not going to reach that level. And then you sort of say, okay, how's it going to play in Philadelphia when people expect Chris Godwin to be a star receiver? And he's not a star receiver. It's more of a really good compliment. That would be my only concern there. But certainly an upgrade. A huge upgrade.
Guy we saw here at Lincoln Financial Field just a couple of weeks ago was very highly drafted and had a couple of very forgettable years at the start of his career. But then they went out and got a quarterback who could really deliver the football, and all of a sudden he's become a star wide receiver. Mike Williams of the Chargers.
Yeah, he is a really big target, really athletic guy. Certainly another one. Like any name you're going to throw out there is going to be significant upgrade, and he would be in that category as well. Again, he's probably the type of guy, and you saw when the Chargers played poorly yesterday. I forget who they beat. They came back. You might remember. And
Broncos beat him yesterday.
Yeah, not yesterday. The week before, I think Herbert
against Steelers.
Yeah, Herbert made that great throw down the sidelines to Mike Williams. He's not going to have that guy slinging the football, but yeah, this is sort of the Eagles trying to get better, and I think we're going too pie in the sky here with these names. I think we just need sort of a competent veteran who can play the game well. But the same thing what I said with Devontae Adams. Now, Devontae, he's going to be franchised, whatever. But all receivers know the landscape, and they know the game. Unfortunately, it's not fair, but But if you have a great Pro Football Focus grade, you can bring it into a GM when it's contract time and say, "Look, I'm a great receiver. I do this well." And they're like, "Oh, how many catches you have?" I mean, it's antiquated. It's a poor way of looking at it. But my larger point is, receivers know they gotta produce to get paid, and they want to be in situations where they can produce. So I don't know, these big high profile guys are going to see this as a situation where they can produce in a big way.
See, here's where you and I would diverge. Devontae Adams is going to get a contract from the Eagles or the Packers or wherever else is going to set him up for life. So in his mind, he doesn't have to sweat every single catch he's going to get going forward, because guess what? He got paid. He got the big deal. Allen Robinson is going to get the big deal. He's going to get paid. He's not worried about his next contract. I'm getting my meal right now, one piece. If you're going to drop down into the next group of receivers who aren't going to get 5 years, $50 million guaranteed, that they're going to need that next contract, yeah, they're going to base their decision on, well, what am I actually going to be able to do numbers-wise when I go to Philadelphia if I'm catching the ball from Jalen Hurts? So that's why I started with the mega wide receivers, because you can get them to come here by blatantly overpaying them and saying, you don't ever need another contract. This is it. Here,
Well, you're probably right from a logic standpoint, but I will say, Jody, have you ever met a receiver? They all want the football at all times.
Divas. That's very true. You got a point there.
And yeah, they would not be happy with a situation where they don't think they're going to get the football. I mean, you're already seeing it.
They're going to get the football. Well, after watching Jalen Hurts yesterday throw it to Jalen Reagor 7 times, maybe I shouldn't say this, but they're going to get the football when they come here. The question is, are they going to be able to get enough catch? It's not going to be for lack of targets. If Devontae Adams comes here, I mean, thinks they'll throw it to him a lot each and every single game.
Well, you would think, you would think, but if you're, again, and it might be right if we're talking about a package deal, and we're talking about Sean Watson coming here and he changes his mind, and we're revisiting all those discussions, or they draft a young quarterback. But no, there's no guarantee with the current quarterback, if they're going to move forward, that even the biggest names in the game are going to get the football consistently. I mean, let's look at since the shift, which was kind of Las Vegas, 18 completions, 9 completions, 11 completions, 16, 13, 14. That's a pretty significant sample size. There's not a lot, there's not a lot of food to let people eat. We've already talked about it. Only 2 players get targeted up to this game, which was Devontae and Dallas Goedert. Patrick Graham did a good job of taking them out of it. So you look at, targets in this game. Devontae Smith, who is number 1, right? He's the number 1 receiver right now. He got 4. Everybody else, Dallas got 3. Jalen, obviously, as you mentioned, got 7. Quez Watkins got 5. And then it's all the running backs, and that kind of stuff doesn't matter. I mean, Greg Ward got 1. Not a lot. Not a lot, Jody.
No, I think you could tell Devontae Adams on where we get you, we'll throw the ball more, and we'll specifically throw it to you, Devontae. But you're going to have to pay way through the roof. All right, let me drop down to a secondary group of receivers. Tell me what you think of these guys. Michael Gallup of the Cowboys.
Oh, I love Michael Gallup. Yeah, that would do the old 2-4. You hurt your division opponent and you get a good receiver. He's the 3rd best receiver on the Cowboys. You could argue right now, Devontae's going to be better, but you could argue who'd be the best receiver right now. It's just a really good, really underrated player. And they might feel they can't keep him that might be an attainable goal. And especially you're going to have to overpay. And again, you're in that same wormhole. Expectations, the more you get paid, Jody, the more the expectations are. And can he live up to those expectations? I don't know, but I think he's a good player. I think he's an underrated player. Good player. And then you look, he doesn't get a lot of attention either. When everybody's on the field, when Cooper's on the field, when Lamb's on the field. But he's proven when those guys have been out, and he's been out himself, but when he's out on the field and those guys haven't been on the field, he still produces. He's a good player.
Interesting name. All right, I'll give you another one. DJ Chark of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's been a productive receiver for them 5 straight years, even with lesser quarterbacks like our backup, the mustache here in town. Does a guy like that, will that satiate Eagles fans for an upgrade at wide receiver?
Well, again, certainly an upgrade. You're not going to be able to give me a name that's not an upgrade. So he's certainly an upgrade, and that might be more of the range you're looking at. I think.
But here's it, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll let you finish your point. Let's say Devontae Adams hits the free agent market. Let's say Allen Robinson hits the free agent market. Let's say Chris Goodwin hits the free agent market. Let's say Mike Williams hits the free agent market. Eagles sign DJ Chark. How is that going to play? That 5, 6, 7 other guys better are out there, but they're not coming here because they don't have the faith that they're going to be the main targets and get the ball 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And the Eagles signed the 8th or 9th best free agent wide receiver this offseason. How's that going to play?
It probably won't play well with the fan base, but you have to understand where you are. And, it's not a desirable locale for a receiver right now. So, you got to add that into it. Maybe a guy like DJ Chark is more realistic, and he's certainly going to be cheaper. And I think he's hurt right now. I think he's missed most of the season. So you have the injury mixed into it. And I forget, I think he broke his ankle, maybe. I don't know. But he's not playing. But he is young. I think he had a 1,000-yard receiver season. So he's had some production on a bad team. That might be a nice cost-effective signing, in sort of the realm you should be in. That type of player. That's kind of the wheelhouse type of player, if you're asking me.
That's why I am asking you, because if they're not going to draft the wide receiver, you tell me it's going to be via free agency. These are the names that we can and should be talking about. And I'm just going by a list.
Well, I was told by somebody with the Eagles that we're not drafting a receiver in the first round. But then again, the person I was told is pretty high up, but he's not the guy making the decision. So you never know.
Which, by the way, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, because it's been an ongoing conversation basically since, I would say, maybe not the night of, but certainly the week of, when Jalen Reagor was selected. The story leaked out that that wasn't necessarily a Howie Roseman pick, because
I think it leaked out later. I don't think it leaked out that early.
Right. And it may have even waited till Mr. Jefferson started catching pass after pass after pass in Minnesota.
By the way, went over 1,000 yards yesterday. What game? 11, game 11, whatever.
He's a pretty good player. And I just, again, personal, you take grief where you need to take grief, you take credit where you need to take credit. Like on Twitter, 10 seconds after Jalen Reagor was selected, yours truly went on and goes, how do they not take Jefferson? This isn't one of those wait till after Jefferson becomes a Pro Bowl level wide receiver. I said it that night when they called out Jalen Reagor's name. What the hell are they doing? So the Eagles have been feeling the pressure on this for a long time. But eventually the story became, it might not have been a Howie Roseman pick, that they may have deferred to the coaching staff, and it's that much easier now because that coaching staff isn't even here anymore. That they preferred Jalen Reagor, and Howie Roseman might have taken Justin Jefferson. It's irrelevant. It's done. It's over. It's finished. If Reagor can't play, you just got to move on from him and not worry about it. But at what point does that happen? What point does that kick in and you go, all right, screw the past, screw where we took them. We just have to eliminate it and move on.
Well, yeah, it usually doesn't happen this early, but it's so bad. I think you got to kickstart it a little bit early. Now, yeah, I don't expect them to cut Jalen Reagor or anything of that nature. In the offseason, they'll try to trade him. So he certainly wants to get traded. I've known that for weeks. He doesn't think he's being used correctly, which is whatever. At this point, what could you get for him? Nobody's even going to offer a 7th-round pick. So that might look bad than even just moving on. Or you just bench him and you say, all right, he's on the back end of the roster and people slowly forget about him. And that's probably the most likely route, I would say, more than anything. But he's played himself off the field. And it's a shame. But, everybody talks about Jefferson. To me, the most egregious part of this is not Jefferson, believe it or not. It's the mentality or the thought process that we wanted a Tyreek Hill-like presence on the offense. That's why they took Jalen Reagor. It wasn't like they didn't like Justin Jefferson. They did like him. They thought he was a slot receiver. He played in the slot in LSU. Now, that's the problem with evaluation. All he does is play outside.
Right.
So just because he's at LSU with other great receivers, and they say, he's probably, let's put him inside because he's a great route runner. That's why they did it, because you can take advantage of route runners more inside than outside. That's when they really, really shine. And that's why LSU did it. You got to be savvy enough to realize, okay, he can play on the outside. He's certainly fast enough. He can do everything, and he's proven that. But what in the world does make anyone look at Jalen Reagor and say, oh, I see a little Tyreek Hill there? I mean, what in the world? Because he's fast? Because he's shifty? Because, they want to stretch.
Because he's under 6 feet tall?
Just
because of the build?
I guess. That's it. You're probably on it. He looks like him physically, and some of the stopwatch measurements kind of match. I mean, watch him play football for 5 seconds. One is a natural football player. The other looks like a great athlete trying to play football. And it doesn't take long to figure that out. That, to me, is the most egregious part of that pick.
All right. He is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Mac and Mac guys doing the tough thing on a Monday after an Eagles major letdown loss against the Giants up the Turnpike.
By the way, we got to say, Jody, like, share, and subscribe, Birds 360.
Oh, I forgot to say, maybe we shouldn't. Who's going to like anything today? I'm not liking anything today. I'm just barely liking you, McMullen. How the hell am I going to push the like button for the show?
That's what, people need. The Eagles need consistency. See, you're consistent with your dislike of me. I appreciate that. You got to bring your A game every single day. The minute you let down is when bad things happen.
No, I dislike what happened up at the Meadowlands yesterday, but we must force our way through this and adding insult to injury. There's the turn of a phrase. That's what I want to talk about when we come back, injuries. How badly did Jason Kelsey leaving that game hurt the Eagles yesterday? Man, Nate Herbig had to, and he's a big dude. Tough for him to hide, but I'm sure he wanted to try and hide.
By the way, I'm going to defend Nate Herbig after the break. I'm going to defend him.
All right. You go ahead and try. Those were some drive-killing penalties. We called 6 points off the board. There's no defense of that.
Well, that's what I was talking about, margin of error. But backup player, backup player trying to replace an all-pro. And, oh, by the way, had to come back in the game to replace Jack Driscoll. Not a lot of guys who can do that.
One of the hosts of Birds 365 continued to talk about how the Eagles had great offensive line depth. Didn't look like it yesterday with Nate Herbig taking penalty after penalty after penalty. McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Coming right back.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Mega guys here on Birds 365. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, rehashing what was a painful loss. I'll tell you, it's the most painful show of the first 165 shows that we've done here on Birds 365. Today's show's tougher than any other. And there's a lot that we're pointing out that the Eagles came up short in. And one of them was backup offensive line play. Yes, Jason Kelce went down yesterday and actually went back into the locker room, then came back out. He did eventually get back into the game. Again, going to give Jason Kelce credit here. I didn't talk to him, didn't hear him after the game. He probably was out there on the field when he shouldn't have been, because usually Kelce misses a play and gets back out there again, probably when he shouldn't be. He came back out onto the sidelines, was working on snapping, and didn't get immediately back into the game. He didn't go back until Driscoll went down, and then they knew they had to move Herbig over to cover for Driscoll, so Kelce sucked it up and got back in there and played again. And Nate Herbig, not a good day. 2 massive penalties, 1 taking a touchdown off the board. You're not going to blame Nate Herbig for those 2 penalties yesterday?
Well, number one, I got to watch the game again today, so I got to take a closer look at them. But I assume they were good calls. I'm not one to blame officiating typically. No, I'm just talking about the circumstance. Number one, and he kind of you're almost right. Jason came back in before Jack Driscoll got hurt, so it was a weird kind of situation. Jason, he went in the injury tent first, then he walked into the locker room, but he looked pretty good walking in. It was a knee injury, and he looked pretty good. So I thought, it's probably going to get taped up. It's Jason Kelsey. He's going to put another brace on. He's going to get out there and play. And then sure enough, he came back on the field, and you're like, okay, he's going to be back out there. He grabbed his helmet, and all of a sudden he's not back out there. And they took his helmet from him again. And you're like, okay, well, he's not coming in. He's going to watch the game, though, so it can't be all that serious. And then he's back in the game. And it's pretty amazing. And then Jack Driscoll goes down. So what I'm going to defend Nate Herbig about, and center is not his most natural position. Probably shouldn't be playing center, number one, but they have to have him playing center. Remember, Landon Dickerson's already out there. He can play center. Isaac Sayamalo can play center. He's long gone. He's out there. So this is like their fourth-string center, Jody, that they have to play. And he did an okay job for a fourth-string center. I think better than most fourth-string centers around the NFL. My biggest concern is, if you remember, I forget which game it was, but Jason missed one play. One play. He got banged up, and it was a bad snap. It was a bad shotgun snap. Might have been Detroit. I think it was. I could be wrong, but it was one. It was literally one snap, and it was a bad snap.
Terrible snap.
Yeah, and that was my biggest concern. He was fine for the most part. So I thought he persevered, did a good job, and then Jack Driscoll goes down, and he's got to play right guard, which is more natural for him. I think it's pretty stinking impressive, the versatility from that standpoint in a game like that. Obviously, the holding penalties hurt, and that's what I was talking about. When you have this mentality, this overriding, this small margin of error, guess what, Jody? You were watching the Cowboys and Raiders on Thanksgiving. You get the wrong crew, they start calling holding, bang. 7-yard gain turns into 10-yard loss. All of a sudden, you got to throw the football to the margin of error, what I was talking about. Look, I only compare the Eagles' depth on the offensive line to everybody else's, and it's really good compared to everybody else's. And Nate's a big part of that.
Yeah, I think you're overstating it. I don't know how good their offensive line depth is, so I'll ask you a roster question. If Nate Herbig is the fourth best center on his team, that you'd prefer to have Landon Dickinson there, but we've already got him a card. You'd prefer to have Isaac Sayamalo there, but he's done for the season. Should they have a natural backup center?
It's interesting.
Are they making a mistake by saying, well, Nate's our fourth best center on the roster. If Kelsey goes down, he has to play it. Are they doing a poor job of allocating resources along the offensive line?
No, I just think, too many injuries, and it happens to everybody. And, if it happens at one particular position or one position group in this case, it becomes an issue, and it's become a bit of an issue. Typically, you're not going to get down. I don't know how you prepare to get down to your fourth center. Nobody does it. So I can't blame Howie Roseman or Andy Weidel or the Eagles had more depth than most teams. Probably you could argue all teams at that particular position. Unfortunately, a bunch of guys got hurt. You don't want to move Landon now because you want him to develop as a long-term starter. So you don't want to consider that. What I will say is almost every single year, Jeff Stoutland, for that reason, keeps a center on the practice squad. And guys like Luke Juriga, if you remember him, he would keep somebody like that on the practice squad, a natural center. This year, they brought in a kid by the name of Harry Kreider to be that player. Undrafted kid, undrafted rookie, just wasn't good enough. and they had to cut him. So, their thought process, well, we drafted a kid in the second round who can play center. We have Brandon Brooks. We have Isaac Sayamalo. All of a sudden, you don't have Brandon Brooks and Isaac Sayamalo. And the kid you drafted to be the backup center has got to be the starting left guard, and the dominoes fall from there. So how much depth could you possibly have? That's my point.
Fair enough. When you go back and you watch the Herbig holdings, they were both holding.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure
either
they
of
were.
the two wasn't all that questionable a call. All right. Other injuries. Miles Sanders went out relatively early in that game, which meant you knew it was going to be a Boston Scott game, the giant killer, and he had a couple of nice runs, but the killer was the fumble that he coughed up in the fourth quarter, killing the Eagles' chances to win the game. Howard is not a given to be back this week. Sanders, you'll find out about today. We go through this same mumbo every single week with injuries. We get information, drips and drabs as it comes out. And sometimes I think it's withheld on purpose by the team. And other times, legitimately, they don't know. What's the running attack going to look like the Eagles when they head up the turnpike again 6 days from now?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing will be they did say Jordan Howard would have an opportunity to be back for the Jets game. So maybe it works out that way. But sprained knee certainly would remain in the iffy category. And yeah, I mean, this was not supposed to be actually, Jody, a big Boston Scott week. And I think, a lot of people betting the props on Boston Scott, I tried to warn them, you might be a little depressed because that was not the plan. But Miles got banged up again. He got banged up on that big 27-yard run. And, Nick Sirianni's thought process was, as it is and will be moving forward, look, if somebody gets hot, I'll ride the hot hand. But Miles is going to be the guy. He's going to be the running back. Miles keeps getting banged up. Boston had an opportunity. He was very effective, except for the fumble, as usual. Miles was very effective running the ball. But I got a lot of that on Twitter. He gets 27 yards and they forget about him. They didn't forget about him. He got hurt.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, right now Miles is banged up. Jordan is banged up. So worst case scenario, you're going to see a lot of Boston Scott against the New York Jets. And again, that's pretty good depth, but not a position you want to be in.
All right, and Nate Herbig may get a chance to hold at the right guard position this week because Jack Driscoll went out and Herbig went from playing center back over to, I guess you're assuming, his most natural position, guard, because he's surely not a tackle, and you're telling me he's not a center. Is it just the left side he can play, or is it the right side too? He's going to fill in for Driscoll if Driscoll's not back. Again, what did you hear after the game? What are the prognoses for Driscoll to be back in there by the time they played the Jets?
Nick didn't have information after. He never does, and that's that's fair. They're waiting for information. I mean, he had to ask one of the PR guys. Kelsey came back in the game. That's how focused you you just play, and you got to worry about your play calling. But yeah, we'll get more information on Jack today. I certainly looked a little bit more serious. If I were a betting man, I'd probably say, yeah, Nate Herbig's going to be the right guard. And yeah, he's fine at guard. He can play right guard. He can play left guard. The Eagles think his best position is left guard, but he's played a lot of right guard. He'll be fine. Again, maybe the best third string guard in football, but you don't want to be playing your third string guard. Simple as that.
Fair enough. And one that was certainly discussed social media, saw it yesterday on Twitter, a little bit in the regular media, but more on social. The Jalen Hurts was actually playing with an ankle that he injured.
Yeah, I'm beating myself up. I should have said this before. And it was actually Les Bowen who brought this up on the show when we were talking about the sustainability of Jalen Hurts. he's going to get banged up at some point. And forget, people think injuries and they think, oh, he's going to be out with this and that. No, you're going to get banged up. Guess what? He's banged up. He hurt his ankle. Is he going to be as effective running the football with a banged up ankle? He's going to play. He's going to tape it up. These are the little things that people don't think about when you start talking about, okay, we're gonna run the quarterback. Yesterday was 8 for 77, again, very, very effective. And all of a sudden, oh, here comes the ankle tweak. And to get through 17 games like that, maybe you have to play a couple games to get through an ankle injury from the pocket. And that's where it's helpful if you can throw the football with some consistency. And the Eagles can't do that right now.
So when supposedly did Jalen hurt the ankle? I was trying to figure it out because I saw it, as I said, late in the fourth quarter.
It was on the sack. It was on the sack. Who had the sack? I got to look at the Giants. So it was Andre Johnson, Julian Love combined. It was on that play. Obviously he still played. And by the way, it was very effective. Probably his most effective drive throwing the football. A lot of underneath stuff to Kenny Gainwell early on that final drive because the Giants were allowing it.
Sure.
And then he gave Jalen Reagor a couple opportunities. So yeah, he fought through it, and we'll see how the week goes. But as your adrenaline's going, you're in the game, you're loose. It's different, obviously, when you slow down, and we'll see how serious that ankle injury is.
And the reason that I think it is something that must be discussed is because Nick Sirianni discussed it after the game, and he mentioned that Jalen was playing with a bit of a bum ankle. The cynical Eagle fans would go, "Oh yeah, he's making excuses for him. That's why he didn't."
No, he got hurt. You could see he got hurt on the field. Yeah, he was. I mean, look, it's not serious. It's just one of those things that happens all the time in the NFL. You'll get up, you'll see somebody limping. They'll go back in, especially this late in the season. But yeah, it changes the game for a mobile quarterback if you don't have your full mobility.
Right. And you have to learn to be able to play with the type of injury that we're talking about that isn't going to knock you out of the game, but could handicap the things you're going to do. Like that Rodgers guy yesterday. I watched that game after the Eagle game. It was nice to see a quarterback be able to do what he's supposed to do. Aaron Rodgers got a bum toe that he keeps whining about, and it's broken. And if I get to the bye week, I'll be fine. All he does is throw the ball all over.
That guy's unbelievable. Guy's unbelievable.
Stone cold, scary good. So that's another part of the maturation process that you're going through with Jalen Hurts is the ability to play when you get dinged up in a contest. But he did take a step backwards yesterday with the 3 INTs he had, 2 of which were just flat out horrific plays. One of which I don't blame him all that much for, but 2 of the 3 not good for Jalen Hurts. All right, we're expecting Chris Franklin of NJ.com to join us next. We still got 40 minutes strong here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
All right, back to Matt, guys, here on Birds 365. Even if you don't like me, because I led you down a primrose path and made you believe the Eagles were going to win yesterday. Even if you don't like John McMullen because he's overselling Nate Herbig to you, he's a nice backup player. He's not a starting player. It doesn't matter. We know you like Chris Franklin, so do us a favor and push the like button here on Birds 365. Click away. Give Chris some love because he's coming in to solve all the Eagles' problems for us. How are you, Mr. Franklin?
Not bad. I don't know if I can be a GM or anything like that. I don't know if I can fix this problem. You might have to trade me or someone else from another team. I'm just kidding. There's a lot going on with this team, man. Not a lot.
Yeah, well, with Chris, we got to start somewhere. So we got to start with the two Jalens. I'm going to go Reagor first, though, before I get to Jalen Hurts. And is Jalen Reagor fixable? I give him a lot of credit for the accountability aspect. He came out to speak to us. Obviously, you can hide in these COVID times. I give him credit, but boy, you got to make those plays for your struggling quarterback. You got to pick him up. You had 2 opportunities to rescue the Eagles. Just not there. At some point, do you have to say, this isn't working and go in a different direction if you're Nick Sirianni and the Eagles coaching staff?
I'll start by saying I thought it showed a lot by him coming out there and talking to us after the game, especially after not making a play like that. But personally, for me, I'm usually patient when it comes, especially to young players. But to me, I think I've seen enough of Jalen Reagor when it comes to him being featured in the offense, them trying to force the ball into his hands and trying to make something. I just don't see anything from here on out that's going to change it so that you feel like you can get something of value from that former first round pick. There's been too many opportunities, I think, given to him when it comes to the deep passes. When he's first drafted, they harp on speed. This guy can make plays. This guy can change direction. He can make plays out of nothing, especially on the screens. Well, we really haven't seen it in this year and a half. When you look at the punt returns, he had that really long punt return last year against the Packers, but ever since then, you see elements here where he can break one, he doesn't break one. And then it's like the Giants directionally kicked. I know they were trying to play field position, trying to corner it. They were directionally kicking it. So that way, when he tried to return it, you wouldn't get to 25, and it hampered the Eagles when it came to field position. He has a lot of skill set, and you're waiting to put things together. But at this point, even in the offense, and who would thought we'd say this at this point, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to me is higher on if I'm a quarterback and I'm looking at my progressions, I'd rather rely on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside right now. And who would have thought we would say this like a year ago? Who would have thought
agree wholeheartedly. All right, I'll go to the Eagles' best wide receiver, Devonta Smith. John told me he could see in the press box there that you can get a better look than we can on TV, that the Giants made a concerted effort to limit Dallas Goedert, that they said, we're not going to get beat by Dallas Goedert. We're going to have a guy on top of him and a guy bracketing him, and they did their best to take him out of the game. Well, you can only do that with one wide receiver. You can only double up unless you're just going to go three-man pass rush. You can only do that so much, which means Devonta Smith was getting either facing zone coverage or man-to-man coverage, and it's solo man coverage. How does he only get 4 targets and only 2 catches yesterday? I get it that any team, any week can take a player, make it more difficult to get a player involved, get the ball to him and the like. They took both of the Eagles' 2 best weapons in the passing game out. How did they do that? At some point, you got to question, did the Eagle player do enough to get open?
I actually put this one on Jalen Hurts, and I thought there's a couple times they did take away Goddard when he came to the bracket, but there were a couple times, especially when that first interception that Jalen Hurts threw, Smith was breaking open. And I think it was more of a moment of anticipation. There were a lot of moments where I saw Smith breaking open or he was, and I think right before that Reagor drop, the next to last play, you saw him going to Sirianni. I think that built up to being a lot of frustration because he was getting separation. And that's something where Hurts had to find the anticipation or feel his guy getting open, breaking open late and throwing there. Because I thought if he had about half the throws that when he was available and he was wide open, he would have had a lot better day. And I thought that would have changed the course of the game, and the Giants would have changed that. And I think you would have saw Goddard getting more because they saw Smith was breaking open. So I really thought I wouldn't pin this one on Smith so much. I'd put it more on the quarterback on that one.
And let me, sorry, John, I'll interrupt. I'll get you in a second, buddy. You know who I might also blame? Me. And maybe you, and maybe McMullen, maybe some of the other media guys, and maybe Eagle Nation, because for 2 weeks running, I know I've been saying here, somebody else has got to get the football. You can't throw it to just Gardner Smith. You got to have a third. You should have a fourth and a fifth, but at least give us a third. Maybe Hurts heard all of that and said, yeah, I got to spread the ball around. We're not going to be able to do this. We can't. It can't just be the 3 amigos, me, Goddard, and Smith. Somebody else got to lend a helping hand. So maybe he tried to force the ball to others a little bit too much.
Well, thanks for that visual now, because I see a bunch of sombreros on a bunch of the guys. That'd be crazy. But when you look at I think it's also coaching too. I think when you look at the game plan itself, I mean, when you look at the first 15 plays, those are the plays where say, you know what, we want to see what you get. The Giants defense is going to give you and present you certain situations, and they threw the ball a lot. And I don't know if it's something where they say, hey, you know what, they only have Bradbury, and we feel we can attack the other parts of the field. I don't know if they saw the video from the Buccaneers and go, hey, you know what, we can just throw. It was, I thought Sirianni may have put Hurts and the rest of the offensive position to continue to throw the ball, and that wasn't the thing. They should have stuck with the run more, especially around the goal line where they were having success. And I just for a team that was doing well these last few weeks and was running the ball consistently and running it even with people like 6, 7, 8 men in the box, and were finding creases getting 4 or 5 yards, they stuck away with that, and they got away with they were doing best, because I don't know if they thought they can be like the Buccaneers and have a similar game plan, but it was just bad. And if anything, I thought the Jets game would have been the one that would have been more of a scare. I know it sounds weird saying it's the Jets, but I thought because that could have been a trap before the bye, but they got caught with their pants down on this one. It was bad.
All right, Chris, let me play devil's advocate here for Nick Sirianni. I think this game exemplified how difficult it is to play the way the Eagles have been playing. I was telling Jody, the small margin of error, if you think about, they ran for 200 yards, but you start thinking about, okay, you get Jason Kelce gets hurt, you get a couple holding calls from Nate Herbig, it pushes you back. We see this all around the NFL. If you're running the football, one play, Boston Scott's running the football effectively, the fumble, Miles Sanders running it effectively, he gets hurt. The margin of error is so small. Was Nick Sirianni saying, okay, I got the Giants, let's evolve this offense a little bit early, try to get Jalen Hurts going? Didn't work, though. That's a concern for me, because I want to bring up the quote for you. I think it's, Nick was asked about Jalen's performance, and he said, anytime you turn the ball over 3 times, it's not going to be an A, B, C, or D. Well, there's only one left. So the head coach gave the quarterback an F, and I think the quarterback deserved an F in this particular. This was his worst game as a pro, in my estimation. Would you agree with that?
I wholeheartedly agree, and I'm usually, and yeah, I mean, I'm usually the one that's like back at Hurts. I still think he could be the guy, but there's no defending that performance at all. You throwing the ball, especially on that goal line in the second quarter when they had the Giants had the interception at the goal line. That's a ball that should have been. If you didn't see, you couldn't fit that. There's no way he was going to fit that into Scott. Throw it out the back of the end zone, throw it away, or even beforehand we seen him run out of bounds. Even then, I would have thought you shouldn't have done it, but it's still fine. He literally cost that team anywhere from 6 to 14 points yesterday, and they could have won that. It was a winnable game, and those turnovers that he made put the team in that position where it is. And I got vibes. It just looked like to me the way that Hurts played, just the overall offense. It gave me a sense that we were watching Week 2 against San Fran all over again, where you had made the bad decisions around the goal line, where you had all that stuff, and you thought you saw and Nick's harpist. Well, we've heard it too, where he says you want to be that team that's not just going up and up, down. You want to have that continual ascension when you're going up. Well, that one looked like it was a big regression back, and it's one game, and you're like, well, we threw the 3 interceptions and that one too. That took a really, really big step back in my opinion, and that's going to linger because with all the rumors that are swirling about if they're going to get Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, everybody now is going to point to this game. Well, you threw 3 interceptions against the Giants, and that's just going to linger around now. And I think that hurts his cause. I still think should be here 2022, but that's just one of those impressionable games that's going to be there when people think of Hurts now.
All right, since John referenced Nick Sirianni's grading reference yesterday, I'm going to ask you to grade out for us, CF, A+ to F. What would you grade yesterday's Eagles defensive effort?
I'd give it a B. I give it a solid B because I thought they didn't allow the Giants to be. You didn't know what you were going to get with Freddie Kitchens. You really didn't. And as much as we hear them talk about unscouted looks and that one, the only one they didn't do well was on that flea flicker that eventually went to Ingram. Otherwise, I thought they held Saquon Barkley and the rest of that Giants run game in check. And I thought they didn't let too many big plays happen downfield. Now, when it came time in the fourth quarter, they let the Giants march downfield, took some valuable time off the clock. And I thought that's what, to me, bumps it down from an A to B. But I thought overall, when you look at the way they mixed covers, the way they held the Giants run game and basically made them one-dimensional because they weren't moving the ball on the ground at all, except for that one. And look, except for that one Saquon Barkley run, and look what he did. Besides that, take that away. Look at the performance he had. But yeah, I give Jonathan. I'll say this: Jonathan Gannon, he took a lot of heat, and deservedly so, in the fast. Like before these last 2 weeks, he took a lot of heat. Granted, it was quarterbacks he played in the last 2 weeks, but it's
funny how that works.
Yeah.
But you're right, Chris. Saquon Barkley had that 32-yard run, which was the biggest play of the day for the Giants. Their largest passing play was 20 yards. So take away that one run, he had 12 rushes for 8 yards.
8 yards.
Yeah. I thought the Eagles were really solid defensively. And when Boston Scott fumbles the ball, the game's over, right? No, they completely shuttered down the Giants in the biggest spot and gave the offense an opportunity to go win the game. And Jalen Reagor should have won the game. I can't even get to the defense when I'm assigning blame. It wasn't perfect, of course. The most concerning part to me is Julian Love. And you probably know what I'm talking about. And Julian Love came out and said, well, yeah, we wanted Jalen Hurts to throw it. Now, I thought Patrick Graham, Giants defensive coordinator, had a great game plan. I really did. And, the Eagles ran for 200 yards, as I mentioned. But that was their mentality. He came out with 2 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers. You saw the indecision. A lot of concern. Is this one of those games where other teams are going to put in the tape and say, oh, look what Patrick Graham did? Eagles going to have to make some adjustments after this game because they know how people are going to attack them now from a passing perspective?
I think so. I think Robert Saleh has already downloaded that and was probably going across, probably was our locker room like, hey, Pat, can you give us a game plan? I think you'll see a lot of similar stuff with him. And The scary thing is a lot of that stuff is correctable. A lot of that stuff is correctable. The one thing I wish I saw more yesterday that I thought would have slowed down, because like the Giants were doing that corner crash from the slot a couple of times, and even now on outside thing, a regular running back screen pass. I mean, you haven't really truly seen that all year. We've seen a lot of wide receiver screen passes and something like that, especially with a guy like Boston Scott, can be explosive, who I think did it last year against the Giants when it came to a little screen pass that worked effectively. Yeah, Miles Sanders, when you get him in space, I thought that would be effective. You didn't see that. So that's one thing I think you can counteract when it comes to there. I think you have to I think formationally you'll have to get Dallas Goedert in a better position, because if teams are going to start bracketing him, you may have to start using more motion. You may have to start putting him in the backfield next to Sanders or whatever, and then break him out late in motion and then have to force the defense to adjust them. There's little things that they can do to fix it. It's a matter of how quickly can they do it? Can they diagnose it quickly? I mean, we'll hear the thing. We looked at the film. I know we'll hear all this stuff. Is will they actually implement it and use it later on against the Jets? And and that's the way I think. If I'm looking at the film, if I'm a coach, I'm frustrated because you'll see all the holes that were there. You'll see all the opportunities there. And I guess the lack of roundabout way of saying it was just execution. They didn't do it, and that's when you start. I think you start looking at the personnel itself, and I think consistently do it.
All right, maybe this will be overly optimistic, but I'm going to roll it out there anyway. I'm tired of being pessimistic. The Eagles have kind of pushed me to be pessimistic for the first hour and 36 minutes of the show, but I'm going to spin a tale here. Tell me if I've got any chance to get this right.
Okay.
Had a buddy on my CBS Sports Radio show last night from Boston, Adam Kaufman, radio guy up in Boston, been doing it for years. And I asked him, how the hell did the Patriots win 6 straight games? They're a good team. They're a talented team. They're not the best team in the AFC, but they're right there for the best record in the AFC. I said, what the hell is Belichick? How did they get to a point where they can win 6 straight games? Which, oh, by the way, the Eagles need to win 6 straight games now, because if they want to make the playoffs, that's what it's going to take. And he said, Joe, Belichick gets a ton of credit. Of course he should. He's arguably the greatest coach of all time. But in the locker room, they had a bunch of guys who are former Super Bowl champions, mostly on the defense side of the ball, who have been able to sell the underdog aspect of this season. When they went backwards last year and didn't make the playoffs, for the first time in 2 decades, the Patriots could say, yeah, we're underdogs. Nobody's picking us. Nobody's respecting it. Nobody's showing us. If that's working in New England, are there guys in the Eagle locker room that can sell that this week? Can Lane Johnson, can Jason Kelce, can Fletcher Cox, guys who have been there, done that, part of the Super Bowl team. Yeah, they've written us off now. We got a little hot. We got our asses kicked by the New York Giants. Everybody's against us. Break out those stupid dog masks again. Can they actually make that work for them this week going forward, starting with the Jets?
Well, I think you have the guys in there. I think they could. I think you even have the head coach. I mean, when you look at Nick
Sirianni wasn't even here. He doesn't even count. He can't be for Sirianni. Sirianni's got to stick to doing Sirianni things. He can't revert back to previous Eagle administrations. He wasn't part of it.
I mean, back when it was 2018, when he was the offensive coordinator with the Colts. I mean, they would start out 1-5. The next thing you know, they roll off 9-10. Right. So I say you can
crossover. You're crossing over organizations.
Yep.
I see where you're going, Franklin. Good thinking out of you.
I do it once in a while. Once in a while, maybe few and far between, but once in a while, something comes up there. But I think you've seen that. And Rodney McLeod, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce, on all those levels, I think you have those guys telling them, hey, it's not over, it's not over. I even think from a standpoint of Hurts and Devonta Smith and even Dickerson with their Alabama, I mean, when it comes to the winning side, I mean, they're not used to losing and everything like this much losing, but they know what it takes to win in critical moments. So I think there's got to be a meld right there. I think the veterans, this is a week where you see a lot of them trying to meld a lot of these young guys to try to take over the mantle, being leaders and step up and everything. I think this is one of those weeks where I think not only just week, but after the bye, you're going to see those veterans try to come on like, listen, guys, take it one game at a time. But, you know, some of them are looking at the whole rest of the schedule and going, yeah, we could take this and just do this.
Yeah. I'm one of them, Chris. Yeah. I'm one of them.
I still think they go at 7, but like I thought they were going to 7, but it looks like I might have to bump it to 8 maybe. But I still think there's that Cowboys, a lot of stuff with Finch in that last game against the Cowboys. in the Washington football team. I mean, they're still a team that
I
you don't know
think
what you're gonna
Washington is the key to it all
Yep.
because I think those two games, if one of those teams can sweep the other, I think that team's going to be in a good position to be the last team in the NFC. The Eagles aren't winning the NFC East. I'm not. Forget about the Cowboys. But right now the last seed is Minnesota. They lost to San Francisco. Those are the final two seeds. They don't have a defensive line. Every single one of their defensive linemen is out. The Eagles are a half game behind. They already have the tiebreaker over the Carolinas, Atlantas of the world. They're still in a position. Did they learn something from this game? This is a game to me where they came in, felt a little bit haughty about themselves. The Giants stink. The Giants are in disarray. Did they learn something from it? The young players on this team, and say, you got to bring your A game in the NFL. If not, somebody's going to jump up and bite you.
I think so, especially division game. I think a lot of young guys got a rude awakening when it came to NFC East football. Because no matter how bad the teams are, and we've seen some really bad NFC East teams over recent memory, no matter how bad they are, these games seem to be close and seem to be really physical, really close. Refs let them play for the most part. You see all those aspects, and I think they got a good taste of that yesterday. And if anything, now if I can't believe I'm saying this. I usually hated this saying back when I was for it. It was good they got this loss out of the way early on. I think they say, hey, you know what? This is what happened. You saw what happened now. You can't let this happen again. I think they beat the Giants again when they play them here at Lincoln Financial Field. And I think they come in with a different attitude when they go and face Washington, both away and home. I think they come in and attitude say, hey, you know what? The Giants were in a similar situation. Taylor Heineke, depends on what Taylor Heineke you get. To me, I look at Taylor Heineke, I look at Daniel Jones, one and the same. So you got the same style quarterback. I just look at overall. I think they use this loss and use as a Cows. I think they win four out of like 6 at least.
Okay.
They'll make it interesting.
Then that keeps them in the mix, gets us to the last game of the season, having some meaning, which is something we should be looking for. All right. Certainly health is going to have something to do with it. 2 running backs are right now questionable for next week with Miles Sanders leaving the game and Jordan Howard probably going to come back, but don't know that for sure. Is it even more ground and pound next week if both of those guys are healthy? Does Sirianni have to temper his potential play calling depending on the health of his backs? What's Eagle offense going to look like next week against the Jets?
I think it's going to depend on if they have Miles Sanders. I think if Sanders out and Howard is still out and his knee's not right, I think you'll see them try to use. I think it's going to be heavy Boston Scott because it seems like Kenny Gainwell has just disappeared from this offense. I wish I knew what was going on.
He was big late as the pass catcher.
Yeah, they love him.
The Giants were giving him.
Yeah, they love the dink and dunk. They love using him on 3rd down to hurry up offense. But after that, when it comes to their base personnel, the 12 and everything else, it's like there. I think you see a lot. If you don't have Sanders and you don't have Howard, I think you see a lot of wide receiver screens to Quez Watkins, Devonta Smith. Use that as almost like the extended zone plays. Yeah, they're probably going to get 2 or 3, but they'll try to trade that because I worry about the long term. I worry about them continually running the ball with only those 2 running backs. I mean, I don't know who else you can find out. They probably have to find somebody out there to put them on the practice squad if it's something long term with Sanders or Howard. But I don't even know who's out there that you feel comfortable with.
Jason Huntley. You can't forget Jason Huntley.
You know what? See, the problem is I forgot about him, and he had a great training camp, and he was a forgotten man. But even then, I don't even know if I can rely on him. Like so he flashed in practice. That one too, but he has a lot of skill, but I don't even know that one. So I think you see a lot of wide receiver screens, a lot of tight end screens. I wouldn't be surprised to see that too using Goddard. But I think for the Eagles' sake, when it comes to at least making the game comfortable next week, they'll need Sanders back in order to continue the run game. If not, that and RPOs, I think you made a receiver relate back to that stuff again, and that's going to be we shouldn't have
complicating that, Chris. I think a lot of people think about injuries. They think about, okay, who's going to play in this game? Who's not going to play in this game? Is Jack Driscoll? How healthy is Jack Driscoll? Blah, blah, blah. Jalen Hurts got banged up in that game.
Yep.
Hurt his ankle on the sack. Clearly was limping. What he's going to be able to play. We know that. He's got to tape up the ankle. What if the mobility is not there and that 8 rushes for 77 yards is off the table? He's got to become more of a stable presence. The mobility is affected. Can this team even run the way they're set up right now? Can they run an offense without his mobility?
I think so. I think it won't see as many. I don't think you'll see as many shotgun looks because if he's really limited, he saw the zone read. And this is another thing I wonder if teams are going to start doing now because they're like the Giants. Because technically, when he's doing the zone read action, he becomes a runner, and the Giants were taking some hits at him. And to me, and you don't want to see this happen with a quarterback. To me, once he was, it was like his ankle was affecting him. And once he was in the pocket and he had to throw, he knew he could, he wasn't able to roll around. That's when I thought he threw his best. I don't know if it's something where he thinks where he's constantly thinking, I got to run or I have to make this move here or there. And then, oh, wait, I have to throw it the last second and then try to throw something that affects accuracy. I don't know if he plays everything off of that, but that's what it just seems like. And I think if he really is, that really does hurt him more. I think you put him more under center. You look more traditional offense, hand the ball off to Scott, running the traditional between the tackles. When it comes to run game, and just hope that it's enough to bite him. But I think there's other ways you can make up that 77 yards. I think it just have to be through the air, and him in the pocket, he's gotten better. Not yesterday. I mean, yesterday, because to me, yesterday when he was rolling out, that's when he got his worst issues. But I think him in the pocket overall, he's gotten better. And I think, who knows, maybe that's going to be a better thing for him, especially if you look at that last drive. Who knows?
Yeah. All right, Chris, after yesterday's performance, sorry to say, the conversation is reopened as to Jalen Hurts in the future. We were trending toward, hey, this is our guy. It looks like he's going to not only be here this year, but next year, and don't know about a decade, but at least for 2022, we know it's going to be Jalen Hurts. You throw 3 picks and don't throw for 200 yards, and you make the mistakes that you made, everybody's going to question you again. I think he is the perfect guy to deal with that. I think he's got the perfect temperament. I don't think he lets these issues get inside his head at all. It's not a question of what's between the ears with Jalen Hurts. It's just the overall talent level and his ability to throw the football. But does it affect anybody else on the team? Is there anybody of his teammates that go, oh, now we got to deal with the Jalen question again? Is Jalen good enough? Is Jalen going to be our future guys? Is there anyone else who said that it could get in? I don't think it's going to get in the quarterback's head, but it could have an ill effect on anybody else on this roster.
I don't think so. I think if he has another game like he had against the Jets, another one, I think you start to see some of the receivers murmur a little bit, like, hey, you're affecting my stats. What's going on here? But I don't even think that's going to even happen. I think he has a stranglehold, at least when it comes to leadership wise. I think a lot of people have bought into him, and I truly don't think that's going to be that. The only people you have to work, I think, if I'm Hurts, you worry about is the front office. That's the only people thinking you're worried about. But even then, I think he tunes them out personally, even to begin with, hearing all this stuff and all these leaks and rumors popping up. So I think he'll be fine. I think his teammates are going to be fine with him. They're going to chalk it up. You hear everybody we saw with Reagor and Scott, and I think everybody else is going to take fit. No, I'm Spartacus. It was all my fault. It's my fault, and they'll just use that. But unless he has another game like this, especially against the Jets, where he throws 3 interceptions and has a QB rating like 16, 17, 18 around that area, then that's when I think everybody goes, then you may hear a murmur. I think even then, a murmur from primary receiver. Other than that, I think everybody's fine on there.
All right, last one from me, Chris, and read Chris Franklin's work at NJ.com with her buddy Mike Kay. They do a great job covering the Eagles. They were obviously in North Jersey yesterday to see the disaster that it became. But in honor of what I'm going to call Jody Mack week as the biggest Jets fan, the most famous Jets fan I know. I don't know Larry David, so I'm going Jody Mack. In honor of Jets week, I want to get some optimism. Who played well yesterday for the Eagles? Who do you look at and say, you know what? Mostly defense, I would assume.
Derek Barnett. And
Yes, that's where I was
Yeah,
going.
you know,
I
Yep.
wanted to
I was
influence
gonna go there. Even me, the biggest Derek
Yes.
Barnett hater in the world, has to acknowledge he did a pretty good job
Yeah,
playing
that's
the
where
run
I was
yesterday.
going. Way to go,
Yeah.
Chris.
He did very. I mean,
He was
between
good.
he
was good.
between that, he first off, when it came to the mental errors, he didn't commit any of those. When it came to penalties, nothing that hurt the team. Nothing. I don't think he had one. Nothing that hurt the team on that one. The thing I was really worried about is, especially on knowing that, as I mentioned earlier, the Giants were trying to find something to spark their offense. And when it comes to reverses, I thought they were going to try something backside. He stayed at home, played his rules, stayed at home, and he stopped. They didn't let anything get outside of him, and he created consistent pass rush. I thought overall that this has been one. I know they have the fat heads inside the indoor practice facility for the players of the week. I thought, well, I think when we were talking, I think we were talking about it. For 1 week,
Denver.
The Denver week.
Yeah.
If they won the game, he played well enough to earn another fat head up there. He's in my opinion, he was the Eagles defensive player of this week. And it's a shame because
did they give one out every week, win, lose, or draw? Or
No.
only on the win?
Just wins.
Just
wins.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought they would have had a lot. We probably would have saw a bunch of other offensive linemen when they came to the offense because they ran for over 200 yards.
Yeah.
But Derek Barnett would firmly be playing it. And I've been rough on him too. I've been pointing saying, hey, you know what? He needs to sit down. He's costing you wins. He's costing you yards. He's putting you in bad positions. And that's the infuriating part, because you can see when he's really going, he looks like he deserves an extension because of all the stuff he can do. We heard about the bend and what he can do. He broke Reggie White's record in the pass rush, but we haven't seen it consistently. When he's on and he's healthy, we get efforts like that what we saw on Sunday. So knock on wood, like hopefully he doesn't get hurt again too. But if he plays at this level, he gives you reasons to be optimistic about this defensive line. It just adds another dynamic to it.
Well, I like to will acknowledge that Brandon Graham Derek Barnett played well yesterday. Tough for me to do, but he did. He played a stout game against the run yesterday. Anybody talk to Brandon Graham? Is he coming back this year, next year, ever again?
We
put the Eagle uniform on again.
Brandon joked, saw him obviously rehabbing. This was one. You were probably there, Chris, when I don't know if you saw Brandon come out, but he joked when the Eagles were struggling and bought me one more year.
He was right near the car. Near the car. I think it was near the car. Yeah. I think, it was that. I think you won't see him this year. I think he'll be ready for next season. I think he'll be next season by training camp, stuff like that. I think that's going to be the case. I'm more concerned about Brandon Brooks because
something weird's going on there. Yeah, I can't explain that.
And by the way, Brandon Graham's going to be back next year.
Yeah.
What he may have dodged a bullet was, and I remember doing a show with our boy Barrett Brooks on WIP years ago, a holiday show, right? Like right before Christmas from a bar somewhere in Center City. And I asked him about the Eagles left tackle, Jason Peters. And I said, will the Eagles ask him to take a pay cut this year? Well, he goes, are you kidding me? If they ask him, he's going to go, yeah, I'll take a pay cut. Thank you very much. There's no way the Eagles are going to ask him to take a pay. And guess what? Barrett was right. They didn't ask him to take a pay cut. And he came back again. And he came back again. Same thing with Brandon Graham. They can call him into the office and go, Brandon, we got some cap flexibility. We can do something. We can build this thing. We're going to need to restructure your contract. I saw the pass rush on this team last year. You want me to take a pay cut? Yeah, he's going to be here either way. He wasn't going to get cut, but he doesn't have to sweat the whole, let's talk about restructuring your deal thing. He's going to get every penny he was scheduled to get.
And you know what's funny you mentioned that, because now I can picture that, because we know Brandon Graham likes to call you by Fat Boy. I see right now in the Howie's office go, listen, Fat Boy, I'm not giving up a cent right now. You know how he loves to call you by Fat Boy. Listen, Fat Boy, I'm not giving up a cent right now. So he's one of, there's certain guys in your franchise you need around, certain icons. I mean, we saw Strahan's number retired yesterday.
Yeah.
There's certain guys you just don't do that, so you have to treat, like a better words, but you do have to treat them with respect. And I think you can't.
By the way, that was a little weird. That play at the end of the half, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Eagles went 92 yards they needed to go the 93rd. I thought it was Michael Strahan's number was 92. A little ghostly apparition creates there.
Come on, you're in conspiracy theories out there. was that Jonathan Frakes series? It's like all the weird stuff that's going on for it. 92.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Michael Strahan, the ghost of Michael Strahan, but he was there, wasn't
Yeah.
a ghost?
It seemed to me like Jalen Hurts was trying to throw that pass into the gap between Strahan's teeth. Bad idea. Not a good idea, Jalen. Chris Franklin always brings insight and info when he comes on. Brought yucks today, too. We thank you much for that, Mr. Franklin. We will have you on again soon enough. If you like Chris Franklin's mock turtleneck, hit the like button right now. I know you don't like me and McMullen because we're telling you the truth today. But Franklin was funny, and he's got a great mock turtleneck on. So hit the like button here on Birds 365. Chris, we'll talk to you in a couple weeks, bud.
Thanks, guys,
Chris.
very much. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Mac guys here on Birds 365. Yes, we will lead up to the Jet game on Sunday. We got Jason Cole joining us tomorrow. One of the more fun guests we have. He's usually good for a little humor too, which we got out of Chris Franklin today, which I absolutely love.
I saw Glauber yesterday, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah. He's like, oh, sorry for playing up the shtick. I know you guys want me to
No,
be
he's
serious.
good.
I'm
He
like,
wore the
I'm like,
invincible
what do
cap.
you mean I want you to be
he's
serious?
a Philly guy, right?
I
that's
never
what he
want.
was.
I never want you to be serious. I don't know why he said that, but there you go.
No, by the way, someone hit us up on the stream. Next year, Jason, Brandon Graham, a free agent. No, Brandon Graham is signed for next year. And oh, by the way, he's one of those guys that they did the restructured deal on. So when they move away from Brandon Graham, it's going to be costly because they've got all those forward years added on to the back end of his contract that are avoidable. But no, he's going to be here next year. They're just not going to be able to say, can we do the whole if there is a restructuring of Brandon Graham's contract again, believe me, it's going to help Brandon Graham, not the Philadelphia Eagles. They'll be able to move money into future years, but he's going to get that much more in guaranteed money going forward, even though he contributed zippity doodah this year because of the injury. Oh no, he's going to be here. He's going to be part of the Philadelphia.
That's the one thing. Yeah, he's under contract. That the one thing, and he's got a huge dead cap hit, something like $27 million. If the Eagles wanted to move on, which they probably don't. So that's number one. If any team has proven they're willing to give up dead money, it's the Eagles, though. So you do have to add that in the equation. He's probably got 4 voidable years on top of that as well. That's what Howie's been doing. Voidable years, voidable years, voidable years. And people say, I wouldn't worry. I say this all the time. I wouldn't worry about the salary cap and Howie Roseman. Don't worry about it.
He's pretty good at finagling his way around it, is your point. And I think you got that one nailed. All right, brother. Heading down to listen to the coach today?
Coach 2:45 today. Mondays are
scheduled
Zoom,
for 2:45. Because
scheduled.
don't always hit exactly when they say it's
He'll
going to hit.
Mondays are Zoom only, which is good. I like Mondays. Mondays are Zoom only.
Well, then feel free to Zoom your life away with Nick Sirianni in a couple hours and then Zoom back in with us tomorrow here on Birds 360.
We'll be back. Optimism. Jets week. Jody Mack week.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll figure it out over the next 4 days.
Are you going to the game, by the way? Real quick. We'll talk about this during the week.
I am planning as of right now to go to the game. I got to be on the air at 6 o'clock. And my daughter and I are probably going to go up to the game. We're probably going to have a hard out that we've got to get out of there and believe we're going to beat the Jersey Turnpike. Otherwise, I'll be late on the air for CBS Sports Radio on Sunday. But the game plan as of now is to be in the stands for Jets Eagles on Sunday.
All right. Yes. Now it's more excitement, more pageantry than I even imagined.
And, oh, by the way, I got better seats than you.
I'm sure.
They're actually not. I sit in the end zone, second level, like the first row of the second level, almost right between the goalposts. So it's almost like watching the All 62 tape. You can see certain things develop. Now, there's certain things you can't see. If they're going in for a touchdown at the other end, I got no idea whether the guy broke the play to the goal line or not. But you do get to get a different view on it. So I will bring that to the table next week. But we got to get through this week first. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, back with you in 22 hours here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube.